Hey everyone, Sparks back with another Etheria Restart video, and this is a complete guide to all of your gear in Etheria Restart. So I'm going to cover both shells and modules. I'm going to talk about matrix effects, how you should level them up, imprinting, all of that. So if you are a new player and you're not sure what you're doing with this equipment, that's totally understandable. There's a lot going on. Or if you're someone who has been playing for a little bit and you're just trying to optimize things a bit more, this video should help you out. So let's talk about rarity first. This is something that's probably pretty straightforward, but if I click on here, you can see that there are different rarity levels based on color. So the lowest rarity is green, and then you have blue, then purple, and then yellow, and then pink and red, which I don't know. I have to find another character that actually has some other equipment. Like here we can see a pink one, and then after that, that's red. Well, let's go back to Sonya because I want to use her for some other examples. So a good rule of thumb is don't level up your green and blue gear at all. You might want to invest in your purple gear if you have to, get that to level 3, maybe level 6. I think the yellow gear is where you want to start really leveling it up, but even then, somewhat minimally. I would say like 6 or 9 is a good stopping point. And then when you get to your pink or red gear, that's when you want to like start maxing it out. So if you've got a really good piece of pink gear or you're to red gear, finally, that's your final piece of gear, then obviously you're going to level that up, and it can go all the way to level 15 for every type of gear. Shells go up to higher levels. We'll talk about them a little bit later. You level up your equipment with something called training data. And that's, this is a Etheria coin over here. You level them up with training data. So let's go ahead and, I guess it's actually called Etheria coin. Okay, anyway, so that's on my Etheria coin. And you're going to get this quite a bit, but you'll run out faster than you think you're going to. So be sparing with it, okay? Like you might be tempted to max things out, but like I said, you want to kind of like limit what you're leveling up in those lower rarities, okay? Now you have 6 different slots of equipment. You have your mask, you have the transistor, the wrist wheel, and then you have 3 of these cores, okay? So you can equip 3 of these in whatever slots you want, and then these are going to be fixed spots. And all of your equipment is going to contribute to something called a matrix bonus. And the matrix bonus can come in either 4, 8, or 12. And this is based on how many total symbols you have of whatever that type of matrix bonus is. And these are basically going to be upgrades for like extra effectiveness on something. So in this case, I have Wellspring. If I had it at level 8, I can get that to HP plus 25%. And then this one is Cure. If I have it at 4, I get HP plus 10%, and so on. All these different pieces of equipment will have different ones. Like here we got Swift Rush. If I have it to 8, I get speed 20%. Let's go to like some offensive ones up here. Battle of Will. This is going to give me attack and a 20% chance to do a follow-up attack, and etc. But notice that some of them can only go up to 8. It's either 4 or 8, and some of them can go all the way up to 12, and so on. It just depends on what the type of bonus is. They have different amounts that they can go up to. So you don't necessarily have to deck out your unit with an entire set of the same thing, just enough to get the max bonus, and then you can start building at least a partial bonus on something else. So this is something really important to note, that you can mix multiple bonuses. And this is really important because generally shells are going to have multiple bonuses on them as well. So keep that in mind. But let's go back to Sonya. And you'll just kind of have to play around with which ones are going to have like, the right combination of bonuses. You might go for like a 12-4 or an 8-8 or, whatever kind of like works best with the equipment that you have. So going back to the specific modules and the unique pieces of equipment over here on the left, they're each going to have a fixed stat that they will always have. So notice on the right, we have multiple stats over here. We can see this for each piece of gear. For the mask, it's always going to give you an attack bonus in that first slot. For the transistor, it's always going to give you HP. And for the wrist wheel, it's always going to give you defense. However, for the cores over here, this will just have a random bunch of stats. It's not fixed. Like if we go over here, we can see that's giving an attack bonus. This is giving an attack bonus. This is giving an HP, defense, and so on. So these are kind of interchangeable. These will have your fixed stats. Also, I chose these level 1s on purpose. They can start with either 2 stats here or 4 stats here, or can I get 1 of 3 or 3 stats over here? So you want to find the pieces of gear that start with the most amount of stats, and this is completely random. So this is kind of where RNG comes in, where you need to farm the right kind of gear. Don't stress about this too much until you get to like the red level gear or maybe pink level gear. Otherwise, kind of whatever you get is whatever you get, and just use it. Otherwise, you're just gonna be like farming hours for something that you're going to replace eventually, right? So every 3 levels, it's going to add another stat or buff another. So watch what happens with my gear that has 4 stats on here. If I upgrade, notice we got HP up, then we got HP, and we added attack. Then we got HP, then I got HP, HP, and attack again. So when I got to level 3, then level 6, and then if I do this again, when I get to 9, it upgraded attack again. So every 3 levels are going to do this, and we'll just do this each time. We got another attack there. I really shouldn't be investing all of this in this yellow piece of gear, but this is just for the sake of the video. I do it for you guys. And so we get more chances to upgrade the stats, okay? Versus if I did this to this, it's going to use up those potential upgrade increments at level 3 as just adding another stat. So you're going to get more total value if you start with one that has more starting stats. Also note that the stats come in different rarities. And so again, you have like green, blue, purple, and so on for how strong or what the efficacy is of that type of stat. The next thing I want to point out is really important that you can recycle them, okay? So you're going to end up with a bunch of low tier gear that you don't need. You can go to recycle, and then you can simply select whatever you want down here. I'm just going to pick a bunch of random stuff and then confirm recycle. And I'm going to get a bunch of leveling material back. And you can even do this with already invested modules, but you're only going to get about 40% return. So again, be sparing. You're not going to get nearly as much back as if you had initially invested in that piece of equipment. Okay, so now let's talk about shells. Shells, as I mentioned before, combine with modules for your matrix effects. And of course, depending on which one you're using, they're going to have different effects. We can see we've got like Wellspring and Bramble. Here we just got Onslaught. That's not exactly a great one. We got Unbreakable, Cure, Onslaught, Harvest. And notice that some of these will have like 3 symbols on all of them, whereas this only has 2 and 3. Or maybe it'll be, here's another 2 and 3. I think I showed you some worse ones where it's only 2. Depending on the rarity of the shell, you can get greater possibilities. But again, this is another layer of RNG. And each type of shell will be fixed to a certain type of different matrix effects that they can get. So it might be, like within like 3 different ones, and it can go up to 2 symbols or up to 3 symbols. It just kind of depends on which one you happen to be farming at that time. Also know that shells have abilities. And if we look over here, we can see what that ability is. So in this case, after the owner takes an action, increase their turn meter by 30%. That's a pretty good early one. If we look at another one up here, we can see before the owner takes an action, increase their attack by 600. It just depends, like what you're looking for. They're going to have, better effects depending on the rarity of them. So shells are so important because it literally gives your character a completely new and extra ability. And that's why they're so much more valuable than what you get from modules. And then of course, you're getting all of the stats from them up here as well. So you have your basic attributes. So here we're getting 320 HP, 21 defense, etc., etc. The other really important thing to note here is that they have passive effects. So this one has 3 slots, but there are no passive effects here. So let's go to one that I have leveled up. Here we can see this one was leveled up a little bit. So we have a passive effect here. And then let's find one that has multiple passive effects. All right, so here we got one that has multiple passive effects. And we can see what will appear in each slot, and they'll get more slots as you go up in rarity. Again, so the rarer, the better color you have of your shell, the more slots you can get here. And this is another reason why shells are such an important piece of equipment and will boost your character's power level more than anything else. So if we look at this, we can see what type of effect appears in each slot. So here we can get like attacking things or defense things. The really important one is slot 2, where you can get Shadow Dash, because this increases your Animus's speed, and this is really valuable for PvP in particular, but speed in general is just a very, very valuable stat. So you're probably going to want to try and re-roll for that. And then I don't have one up here currently as an example that I can show you a third stat, but you can see which type of stat can appear in each slot. And again, this is another layer of RNG, and you can re-roll these. And again, you're going to have colors to match how effective they are. I think I have one with like more rare ones. Like here we have a purple one. I think I did this just to complete a quest. So if we go to Empower, now we can go ahead and customize our shells. So if I go to Reconfigure, here's where I can start re-rolling. And then again, this is another type of, this is the training data I was thinking of earlier. So you use training data to re-roll. So I can roll for a completely different passive effect on here. Again, I can see what my possibilities are. It'll pick one of these at random, and then it will pick a rarity at random. And I can re-roll these as much as I want until I get the desired ones. Again, don't do this until you get to those rare pieces of gear, ideally red, otherwise you're going to be wasting your time. But now let's go ahead and talk about Ascension, because maybe you invested in something a lot, but it didn't have the best matrix effects down here. And then later on, you want to, switch to something that has better matrix effects. So let's take a look at my Twilight Knight. I think it's this one that I want to do it on. Yes. So here I'm getting 2 Onslaught and 3 Battle Will matrix effects, but it's level 1. And I'm like, oh, I already dumped resources into this one over here, and it doesn't have nearly as good. So if I go to this one, I'll go to Empower, and then I will go to Imprint. And then I need to select the one that is already leveled up to use as material, and that will add the levels to this one. Now, this is some really important stuff down here. It says the selected shell star level, and passives will be imprinted on the target shell. The target shell matrix effects will remain unchanged. So the main one that you selected will keep its matrix effects, but every other aspect of the one that you're using as material will be imprinted onto that. So again, that's all those passives and all the levels and everything. So if I say imprint, now it gets all its stats, of course, because it's level 10, but it keeps its good matrix effects over here. So this is something that's really useful. It makes it a little bit easier to invest in something without having like major regrets later on, right? So it's a pretty cool system. There's a lot of layers to this. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Like I said, there's a lot going on, but equipment makes a huge difference in this game. And this is really like where the end game grind is, in your modules and your shells. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Some ones that I would recommend targeting as far as matrix effects are going to be like Swift Rush or Immunity, so you can't get debuffs. Bloodbath is also very good. There's one that takes away a cooldown on some of your skills. Keep an eye out for those, but it really depends on what unit you're building. Like right now, I'm really enjoying this Battle Will one on Rosa. It really just kind of depends. But there's your guide for equipment. Hopefully that helped you out. Let me know if you have any questions below. Subscribe for more Etheria Restart videos, guides, character reviews, news, etc. And I'll catch you guys in the next video or stream.